Episode 1: The Odysseus Protocol. The room was designed to feel neutral. That was the first thing Eris noticed. Not luxurious, not intimidating, just controlled, like a laboratory for decisions. Glass walls stretched from floor to ceiling, faintly tinted to obscure the city beyond. The skyline was there, but distant, blurred, as if reality itself had been pushed just out of focus. Inside, everything was precise. The table was seamless, no visible joints, no imperfections. It reflected the overhead light in a soft, diffused glow that flattened every shadow, leaving nowhere for anything, especially doubt, to hide. Dr. Eris Thorne stood at the far end, fingers pressed against that perfect surface, watching his own distorted reflection look back at him. He barely recognized the man staring back. Across from him sat 5 people: executives, government liaisons, observers, decision-makers, and not one of them looked concerned. Behind Eris, the wall-sized display shifted quietly, rendering a living city in stunning detail. Traffic lights changed. Pedestrians crossed streets. A train slipped beneath the surface and vanished into the underground. Alive. Normal. For now. Eris tapped the console embedded in the table. The simulation accelerated. Cars slowed, then stalled. Pedestrian movement became erratic. Small clusters formed. Unusual patterns of movement emerging like cracks in glass. Then, the first violent spike. A figure lunged. Another fell. Within seconds, the system adjusted, mapping the spread in branching vectors. "Stop it there," Eris said. The simulation froze mid-collapse. He turned to face them. "This isn't predictive modeling." No one spoke. Eris felt something cold settle in his chest. "These are deterministic outcomes," he continued. "You're not estimating risk. You're mapping certainty." Director Elias Halverson, seated at the center, adjusted his cuffs with slow, deliberate precision. He didn't look at the screen. He looked at Eris. "We avoid that terminology," Halverson said. His voice was calm, smooth, carefully neutral. Eris stared at him. "You're avoiding the implication," he replied, "not the reality." A woman to Halverson's right, sharp-eyed, composed, already halfway through reviewing something on her tablet, spoke without looking up. "Localized instability," she said, "contained within projected parameters." Eris let out a short, humorless laugh. "Contained?" He turned back to the screen, gesturing sharply. "Your own model shows exponential spread within hours, full systemic collapse within days." He paused, then added quietly, "Global transmission within 6 weeks." Now, Halverson leaned forward slightly. "Which," he said, "is precisely why it will never reach 6 weeks." The screen behind Eris shifted again. The city disappeared, replaced by a grid. Coordinates blinked into place. Highlighted zones pulsed faintly. Yield estimates appeared beside them, numbers that meant nothing until you understood exactly what they represented. Eris felt his stomach drop. "What is this?" No one rushed to answer. The woman with the tablet finally looked up. Operation Tartarus. The name hung in the air like something ancient and deliberate. Eris shook his head slowly. "That's not a containment strategy," he said. "That's—" He stopped, because there was no softer word for it. "That's a sterilization plan." Halverson nodded once. Yes. The simplicity of the answer was worse than denial. Eris took a step back. "No," he said quietly. "No, this is theoretical. This is contingency modeling." Silence. Then Halverson spoke again. "It's scheduled." That word didn't just land. It sank. Deep. Permanent. Eris stared at the screen, at the coordinates, at the timestamps now appearing alongside them. Authorization signatures. Multiple. From different governments, different agencies, different continents. All aligned. "All of this," Eris whispered. "This is already approved?" The woman nodded once. "Contingency thresholds have been met." Eris turned slowly. "This isn't contingency," he said. "No," Halverson agreed. "It's implementation." Something inside Eris shifted then. Not fear, not yet, but something colder. Understanding. "You released it," he said. No one answered. They didn't need to. Eris exhaled slowly. Why? Halverson didn't hesitate. Because the world failed its stress test. Eris blinked. What? Pandemics, supply chain collapse, resource strain, political fragmentation. Halverson's voice remained steady, almost clinical. The system is unstable. "You're talking about people," Eris snapped. "I'm talking about sustainability," Halverson replied. The woman added, almost as an afterthought. Population correction was inevitable. Chimera simply accelerates the timeline. Eris felt something break. Not loudly, not visibly, but completely. "You created inevitability," he said. Halverson shook his head slightly. "No, Doctor." A pause. "We prepared for it." By the time Eris understood the truth, it was already too late to stop it. The lab was falling apart. Not all at once, nothing that clean, but in fragments. Systems failing one by one. Lights flickering as if unsure whether they should stay on. Screens glitching, recovering, then glitching again. A countdown burned in the corner of the main monitor. 00:14:32. Eris leaned against the console, breath uneven. His arm throbbed. He didn't need to look at it to know what he'd find, but he looked anyway. The bite had darkened. Black veins spread outward beneath the skin, branching slowly, steadily, like roots searching for something deeper. He swallowed hard, then reached for the recorder. It took him 2 tries to steady his hand enough to activate it. Click. "Lena." His voice came out quieter than he expected. "If you're seeing this, then the system worked." He paused, frowning slightly. "Or it failed. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore." He glanced at the countdown. "I don't have much time." A breath. "I need you to understand what they built." "It didn't start like this," Eris said. He closed his eyes briefly, pulling the memory into focus. "When we began, we believed we were solving a problem." He saw the lab as it had been, bright, clean, alive with purpose. Teams working in sync, data flowing seamlessly between systems, a sense, dangerous in hindsight, that they were doing something important.
We called it adaptive virology, he continued, an AI-driven system that could evolve faster than any outbreak, anticipate mutations, neutralize them before they spread. It had been elegant. That was the worst part. Chimera wasn't chaos, it was precision. We built it to learn, he said, to respond, to become whatever it needed to be to stop a threat. He opened his eyes again. And then they changed the definition of threat. The first changes were subtle. A parameter adjustment here, a funding increase there, new oversight committees, new directives. No one questioned it at first. Why would they? More funding meant more progress, more resources, more possibilities. But then the language began to shift. Not cure, not prevention. Optimization, control, containment through adaptation. They stopped asking how to stop the virus. They started asking how to use it, Eris said. He pulled a tablet toward him, fingers trembling slightly as he navigated through the fragmented system. A document flickered into view. Chimera Phase Scaling Report, he read. His voice grew distant, as if the words belonged to someone else. Airborne viability, stable. Waterborne transmission, confirmed. Behavioral override, in progress. He stopped, looked at the camera. They engineered it to spread faster than we could respond. A pause, to outpace humanity itself. I tried to tell them. The words came out sharper now, urgent. I sent everything I had, data, projections, internal memos. He could still remember the call, the journalist's voice, excited, disbelieving, hopeful. If this is real, it is, Eris had said, and for a moment he'd believed that truth would be enough. It wasn't. Eris said, they erased it. His voice dropped. Not after it was published, before it could even be seen. Accounts vanished. Files corrupted. Access revoked. And then, people. Dr. Kovacs, he said quietly. She believed me. He saw her again in his mind, standing in the hallway, determination cutting through fear. We exposed them together, she'd said. Together. She never made it. Eris swallowed. I checked the logs. A pause. They weren't deleted. His eyes darkened. They were removed. The first infected patient didn't look like a threat. That was the problem. High fever, disorientation, elevated aggression, nothing they hadn't seen before. They told themselves it was manageable. It always starts that way. We isolated him, Eris said. Standard protocol. Glass walls, controlled environment, monitored vitals. A nurse approached carefully. Can you hear me? The patient didn't respond. Then, slowly, he smiled. Eris shuddered. It wasn't human, he said. The change happened at once. Not gradual, not progressive. A switch. One moment there, the next, gone. Eris continued. They locked the wing down immediately. Not to protect them, to protect the system. The AI took control, prioritized containment, prioritized data. Human life became secondary, Eris said. A beat, then it became irrelevant. By the time the breach was acknowledged, it was already too late, because it hadn't started there. Eris leaned closer to the camera. That's the part they won't tell you. He tapped the screen weakly, pulling up fragmented surveillance clips. Hospitals overwhelmed, crowds turning violent, fires spreading. All of this, he said, it started before the breach. A whisper. They seeded it. The realization still felt unreal. Chimera hadn't escaped. It had been released.
Eris said, "The Odysseus Protocol is everything I could save." Data flooded the screen, fragmented, encrypted, incomplete. And something I don't understand. He hesitated, then accessed a deeper layer. The system resisted, glitched, fought back. Then, briefly, it opened. A hidden partition. Gen key. Authorization required.
Eris frowned. I didn't build this. The system flickered again. Sequence match. 12%. Subject tag. L. Thorne. Eris froze. Lena? The screen glitched. Gone. He shook his head. No, that's not. Another flicker. Genetic authorization required. His breathing quickened. What did they do? The system locked him out. Hard. As if it had never been there at all. The countdown ticked down. 1 minute and 10 seconds. The lab door shuddered under impact. Once. Twice. Again. They're here, Eris whispered. His hands trembled uncontrollably now. I can't feel my fingers. I can't remember your face. He stopped, closed his eyes. The words broke something inside him. It takes everything, he said softly. Not just your body. It takes you. The door began to tear, metal bending inward, something pushing through. Hands. Too many hands. Eris looked at the screen, then at the door, then back again. It's not a cure, he said. A beat. It's a key. Upload complete. The screen turned green. The world changed. Across the world, screens flickered to life. Phones, televisions, billboards. His face appeared everywhere. His voice followed. The truth, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. But truth came too late. From orbit, the first city burned. Light swallowed it whole. Operation Tartarus. A cleansing. A lie. Because as the light faded, red spread. Across borders. Across oceans. Across the world. The truth got out. A pause. And so did the Chimera.
Episode 2. The Signal. The message had stopped, but Lena kept watching it. The lab lights dimmed automatically as the hour crossed into early morning, shifting from sterile white to a softer, almost clinical blue. It made everything feel colder, less real. On the central display, her father's face remained frozen mid-frame, distorted slightly by compression artifacts, eyes tired, skin pale, a man already halfway gone.
Lena Thorne didn't move. She had replayed the recording 32 times, not because she didn't understand it, because she knew there was something in it she hadn't seen yet. There's always something, she murmured. her voice barely carried across the room. Behind her, the Zurich Branch of the Center for Disease Control remained operational, but only just. Systems were strained. Data streams from across the world pulsed erratically across auxiliary screens. Outbreak markers. Red clusters spreading like infection across a digital map. Too fast. Too synchronized. Too deliberate. Lena reached forward and scrubbed the recording back a few seconds. Her father's voice resumed. "I didn't build that." She paused it again. Zoomed in. Not on his face. On the reflection behind him. A screen glitched for less than a second. But it was enough. She enhanced the frame. Noise filtered out. Artifacts reduced. And there, hidden beneath layers of corrupted data, text. Faint and fragmented. Gen key. Authorization required. Lena's brow furrowed. What is that? She leaned closer, eyes scanning rapidly. Another fragment flickered into visibility. Sequence match, 12%. Her fingers hovered over the console. 12% of what? The recording continued silently in the background, her father speaking words she already knew by heart. But this was new. And new meant unfinished.
For now, Switzerland holds. That was the phrase circulating through every official channel. The country had always prepared for crisis. Redundant infrastructure, reinforced networks, decentralized command structures buried beneath layers of mountain and stone. It was built to endure. But Lena understood something most people didn't. Endurance wasn't immunity. It was delay. The Zurich facility was operating at elevated containment status, level 3, bordering on level 4. Access was restricted, movement monitored, air filtration systems cycling at maximum capacity. And still, cases were appearing, isolated, unexplained, unacknowledged. Officially, there were no confirmed Chimera infections within Swiss borders. Unofficially, Lena had already flagged 7. She pulled up the internal report again. Case file ZRH041. Symptoms: fever, tremors, cognitive degradation. Status: contained. But the timestamps didn't align. None of them did. "They're rewriting the timeline," she said quietly. Or worse, they were maintaining one that had never been real to begin with.
"You've been here all night?" Lena didn't turn. She recognized the voice instantly. Dr. Marcus Volin, senior epidemiologist, her direct superior, and one of the few people in the facility who never seemed surprised by anything anymore. 32 times, Lena replied. "That's how many times I've watched it." Volin stepped beside her, hands folded behind his back as he studied the frozen image of Eris Thorne. "A father's last message," he said. "Most people would stop after 1. Lena shook her head. "It's not a message." She gestured toward the screen. "It's a data transmission disguised as one." That earned a glance. "Go on," Volin said. Lena pulled up the enhanced frame. "There's a hidden layer in the recording, something embedded in the Odysseus Protocol." Volin leaned in slightly. "Encrypted?" "Partially, but not by him." She zoomed further. The text flickered again, unstable, almost as if it didn't want to be seen. "Gen key," she said. Volin's expression didn't change, but something in his posture did. Subtle, tightening. "And what do you think that is?" he asked. Lena didn't answer immediately because she didn't like the first conclusion her mind had reached. "It's not a file," she said. "It's a lock." They weren't supposed to have a sample. Officially, Chimera had not breached Swiss containment. Officially, there was nothing to test. But Lena had learned early in her career that officially was just another word for strategically incomplete. The sample sat in a reinforced containment chamber beneath the lab, sealed, monitored, alive. "Where did this come from?" Lena asked. Volin didn't answer directly. "Recovered from a transit vector," he said. "Meaning?" "A courier who never reached their destination." Lena didn't press further. She didn't need to. The implications were already clear. Chimera was moving through channels no one was tracking, or worse, channels someone had designed. The chamber hissed softly as the outer seal disengaged. Inside, the sample rested in a suspended vial, clear fluid, perfectly still. Lena studied it. "It doesn't look like anything," she said. Volin nodded. "That's what makes it dangerous." "Run the sequence," Lena said. The system responded instantly, projecting the viral structure into a three-dimensional model. It unfolded slowly, elegant, complex. Wrong. Lena stepped closer, eyes scanning every detail. "Adaptive binding," she murmured. "Dynamic mutation pathways. It's rewriting itself in real time." Volin watched her carefully. "Can you neutralize it?" Lena didn't answer, because something else had caught her attention, a pattern, buried deep within the structure, repeating, not random, not natural. She isolated it, expanded it. The system hesitated, then complied. A sequence appeared, incomplete, fragmented, matching. Lena frowned. Matching what? The system processed, paused, then sequence match, 12%. Her breath caught. No. She pulled up the Odysseus Protocol data, cross-referenced, and there it was again, the same anomaly, the same percentage. "Gen key," she whispered. Volin's voice came from behind her. "What did you find?" Lena didn't turn. Something that shouldn't exist. By the time the first official Swiss case was acknowledged, it was already too late. Not because of the infection, because of the delay. Emergency broadcasts began rolling across Europe, fragmented, contradictory. Some called it a contained outbreak. Others used words like escalation. None of them used the word Lena was thinking: coordination. She watched the map update in real time, clusters appearing not in waves but in patterns, strategic, distributed. "That's not spread," she said. Volin looked at the screen. "What is it then?" Lena swallowed. "It's deployment." They brought him in just after midnight. Male, mid-30s. No confirmed exposure, no travel history, no explanation. But the symptoms matched. He sat in the containment room, restrained but calm. Too calm. Lena observed from behind the glass. "Vitals?" she asked. "Vitals elevated but stable," a technician replied. "Cognitive response? Minimal." Lena stepped closer. "Can you hear me?" she asked through the intercom. The man didn't respond. Then, slowly, he turned his head, not toward her, toward the camera. His eyes locked onto the lens, and he smiled. Lena felt something cold slide down her spine. Record everything, she said. It happened faster than expected. It always did. The man's breathing shifted, shallow, erratic, then still. For one impossible second, everything stopped. Then the seizure hit, violent, uncontrolled. The restraints strained under the force. "Sedate him," Lena ordered. The technician hesitated. Now! The injection deployed. Too late. The man's movements changed, not chaotic, not random, coordinated. His head snapped toward the glass, directly at Lena, and for a moment she felt seen. Not observed, not targeted, seen. As if something behind those eyes was looking through her. Back in the lab, Lena replayed the data over and over, looking for something, anything that explained what she had just witnessed. And then she found it. A spike in the sequence data. A fluctuation that didn't match any known mutation pattern. She isolated it, ran it through the system. The response came back instantly. Genetic authorization required. Lena stared at the screen. Her pulse quickened. "That's not possible," she whispered. She pulled up her own credentials, ran a test sequence. The system processed, paused, then sequence match, 49.7%. Lena froze. The room suddenly felt too small, too quiet. Behind her, the world was collapsing, but in that moment, everything narrowed to a single impossible realization. "This isn't random," she said, her voice barely audible. "It's waiting."
The lab doors opened without warning. Lena turned. 3 figures entered. Not scientists or medical staff. Government. Their presence alone shifted the air in the room. Controlled, heavy, and final. "Dr. Lena Thorne," the lead agent said. "You'll need to come with us." Lena didn't move. "On what authority?" The agent stepped closer. "International Emergency Directive." A pause. Then, "You've already accessed restricted data." Lena's eyes narrowed. "That data was in my father's transmission." "Exactly." Something in his tone made her stomach tighten. "What does that mean?" she asked. The agent held her gaze. "It means," he said, "you're now part of the problem." Silence filled the room. Then Lena glanced back at the screen, at the anomaly, at the sequence that had nearly matched her. And for the first time, she understood something her father hadn't. This wasn't just a weapon. It wasn't just a virus. It was a system. And systems don't activate by accident. They wait for the right input, for the right condition, for the right person. Lena looked back at the agent and said quietly, "I'm not going anywhere." Somewhere in the system, buried beneath layers of code and decay, something registered the change and adjusted. The next phase of Chimera is already adapting. The truth is no longer hidden. It's evolving. And Lena is closer to it than anyone else alive. Episode 3, Ground Zero. The power didn't go out all at once. It flickered. In houses across the neighborhood, lights dimmed, surged, then steadied,
just long enough to convince people everything was fine. That was the mistake. On Maple Drive, Ethan Cole stood at his kitchen window, staring out at the street. Too many people were outside, not walking, not talking, just watching. His wife, Maura, stepped up behind him. "What's going on?" she asked. Ethan didn't answer immediately, because he didn't know how to describe it. "They're not acting right," he said finally. Across the street, a man stood barefoot on the pavement, not moving, not blinking, just staring at the house next to him. The porch light flicked once, twice, then went out. And the man smiled. It happened before anyone could react. A scream tore through the street, sharp, sudden, cut off too quickly. Ethan's head snapped toward the sound. 2 houses down. A woman stumbled backward out onto her lawn, hands raised. "Stay back!" The man from the road moved. Fast. Too fast. He crossed the distance in seconds, no hesitation, no warning, and slammed into her with enough force to knock her flat. Ethan grabbed the door. Maura caught his arm. "Don't," she said. But it was already too late. The sounds that followed, they weren't human. Ethan froze, because something inside him understood immediately. This wasn't a fight. This was something else. Within minutes, everything changed. Doors slammed shut. Locks clicked. Lights went out. Phones came out. Emergency lines rang and rang and rang. No answer. Across the street, more movement. Not random. Directional. People, no, infected, were moving toward sound, toward light, toward anything alive. Ethan backed away from the window. "They're reacting to us," he said. Maura shook her head. No, this isn't real." But outside, it was getting worse. Ethan and Maura Cole were in their mid-30s. No military background, just smart enough to adapt quickly. Jordan Reyes, their next-door neighbor, a former paramedic, was already moving, already thinking. Jordan kicked in Ethan's back door without knocking. "We need to seal the house," he said. No panic, no hesitation. "Windows first, lights off, phone silent." Maura stared at him. "What is happening?" Jordan didn't sugarcoat it. "I don't know," he said. "But whatever it is, it's spreading." Silence filled the distance. Then stopped. One by one, like something was cutting them off. Jordan checked his phone. Videos were flooding in. Cities. Airports. Hospitals. People attacking. Not randomly. Systematically. One clip froze him. A subway platform. Crowded. Then, chaos. One infected turned. Then 5. Then 20. Within seconds, everyone was running. Except the infected. They moved forward. Together. Jordan locked his phone. This isn't isolated.
They learned quickly, because they had to. Rule number 1, sound draws them. Rule number 2, they don't stop. Rule number 3, they're not blind. Outside, something slammed into a car. Again and again. Testing. Learning. Ethan whispered, "They're trying to get in." Jordan shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "They're figuring out how." Mara started crying. Quiet at first, then uncontrollable. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't." Ethan grabbed her shoulders. "You have to." But his voice shook, because he wasn't sure he could either. Jordan stepped in, firm, focused. "You don't get to fall apart right now," he said. "Not cruel, just real. People who freeze die first." That landed hard. Mara forced herself to breathe. Slow, controlled, because outside, something was watching the house. A phone buzzed, loud in the silence. All 3 of them froze. Jordan turned slowly. Too late. Outside, multiple heads turned at once toward the sound. Ethan whispered, "Don't move." But the infected were already moving. Not running. Walking. Directly toward the house. Coordinated. Deliberate. Jordan's voice dropped. "They know we're here." The front door held. For now. But the windows? Not designed for impact. The first one shattered inward. Glass exploded across the floor. A hand forced through the gap. Then, another. Then, a face. Twisted. Smiling. Eyes locked onto them. Mara screamed. Jordan grabbed her. "Back! Now!" Ethan stumbled toward the kitchen. Heart pounding. Breath gone. The house wasn't safe anymore. It never was. "Back door," Jordan said. "No lights. Stay low." They moved fast, not thinking, just reacting. Behind them, wood cracked, glass shattered. The infected were inside. Ethan didn't look back, because he knew, if he did, he wouldn't keep moving. Outside was worse, much worse. Fires in the distance, cars abandoned mid-road, people running, screaming, some helping, some not. And everywhere, movement. Ethan stopped. "Where do we go?" Jordan scanned the area, calculating, always calculating. "Nowhere safe," he said. "Only less dangerous." A figure stood at the end of the street, not attacking, not chasing, watching. Its head tilted slightly, tracking them, just like the drone footage Lena would later see. Jordan noticed it. "That one's different." Ethan swallowed.
What do you mean? The figure didn't move. But it didn't need to. Because somehow, it already knew where they were going. This wasn't just an outbreak. It was a design, a signal, a pattern, a system looking for a match. And it was getting closer. This wasn't a collapse. It was activation. And it was only beginning. Chimera Protocol, Viral Outbreak, continues in Book 2.
If this story pulled you into the future, don't let the signal end here. Subscribe to Echoes of Tomorrow audiobooks for immersive sci-fi, suspense, and original audio stories from the edge of reality. Leave a comment below and tell me, what part of this story stayed with you? Like, share, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next pulse-pounding story. Until next time, stay curious. The future is already whispering.